morning. It's W with Weasel News, bringing you exclusive interview with the new Commissioner of Fire, Mr. Mike Sherwood. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. So, many people were surprised when you resigned from Chief of LEO. Do you know why this was?
The reason I stepped down from Elio and took this job here is because the law enforcement as a whole, the department is well on its feet, and I like a challenge. I like the people of this state, so I kind of bounce around where I'm needed. And it just so happened that this commissioner position opened up. I was offered it by the governor, and I turned it down at first. I turned it down a couple of times, but I talked it over with the former commissioner, the deputy commissioner, and a battalion chief who I have now, and they all tended to agree that this department needed a little more leadership than what it had before, and I stepped up and filled that role.
I see. And what really qualifies you to take a position as Fire Commissioner?
Just my experience on the job. Uh, on the job, obviously, I was a battalion chief before this. The deputy commissioner didn't want the position. I was technically next in line, but the way that we run the state, that the governor and his cabinet wants it to be ran is we don't put people next in line. It's about who's more qualified. And although I may not have been the most qualified, I was probably the most qualified behind the deputy commissioner. But the reason they offered me the position, I do believe, is the leadership that I can bring to this department, and the fact that uh, if you look at recruiting in general, I tend to be a fairly good recruiting tool because I'm an easy guy to get along with, and I do my job and I do it well. So all in all, I do believe the department as a whole will benefit from not only the leadership style I bring, but just the people I can bring to this department and the changes that will be made.
I see. And our private investigator here at Weasel News has done some research, and we found out that you did quite a bit of volunteer work for the fire department here, as well as sometimes doing part time here at the station. Is that true?
Yeah, I was strictly volunteer due to obviously my duties as a law enforcement officer, but when when I did go fire because I worked three jobs myself. I was the chief of police. I was also the battalion chief in fire. I also am. It's not so much a job, but I do a lot of volunteer work for the state itself. Just that's just the person I am, and I did do a lot of volunteer work. But volunteer work doesn't mean anything. Just like everybody else in this department, I had to prove myself, and I did that countless times when even as a battalion chief or something along those lines, the people that aren't supposed to go into the building. I still did it because, to be quite frank, how can you expect somebody to do something for you if you don't do it for them?
Yeah. And after further investigations with State of San Andreas implementing a rule where if you're high ranking in one department or another, you can't be high command in another, did that have anything to do with you stepping down as chief of police?
Um, although it did play in, although it did play into it, I would have resigned regardless if I had to take this position, just due to the fact that it wouldn't be fair to the LEO department if I'm rebuilding the fire department, and they wouldn't get me as much as they would like. But as a fire department, I can still be active with LEO, and I can still help out a department. Regardless, I'm helping the state. So I do believe that, uh, all in all, although it was heartbreaking for a lot of people in the law enforcement community, as well as myself, I do believe that it, all in all, this decision is going to turn out to be a good one. And I think they'll see why.
I see. And what's your plans to help give the fire department more funding from the state as well as more community help, more community support?
The with the funding thing, we basically get the same funding as PD. The issue we had was allocating that funding, and a lot of it was allocated towards the people we have now, getting them trained. I do believe that the department we have now is trained well enough to where we don't need to spend that much money on it. So we're more allocating our budget to recruitment, and we're going to be bringing in a new fleet, hopefully, if the governor will approve it. But I really do hope in the near future people will see why the fire department not only is going to be a good department, it might be the best we have in the state, just due to the people that I surround myself with, and the people in this department are really good people. They just don't get the credit that they deserve sometimes, and I do believe that people do tend to work a lot in this department. People work a lot harder than some people do in LEO. So I do I do think that all in all, this is going to be I'm going to have fun with it. I really hope the guys under me have fun with it. But at the end of the day, we have a job to do, and we're gonna have to step up and do that job.
So earlier this week as well, Matt Casey was promoted from lieutenant of fire to the battalion chief. Did you have anything to do with that promotion?
Yeah, that was actually the first thing I did when I became fire chief or commissioner. Was I did promote him because as I said, so a lot of people in this department work hard, and he is one of the main people that have worked hard, whether it's getting our volunteers trained or the full times trained. He seems to just do everything in his power to make sure this department goes places. And although I was fairly upset, and he might have been upset when I got the commissioner position, I do believe that after I had a good talk with him, and um, I do believe that he will understand, or does understand, the reason it has to be this way. But he busts his ass in this department, and I do believe that he does deserve that promotion.
What's your hopes for the stations as well? Because some of them appear to be a little tricky for emergency vehicles to get to. Specifically, the one in the Sunny Shores district. There's a lot of issues with engines and ambulances being able to access the station.
Yeah, so that is a pretty big issue. I'm trying to find a decent contractor that will do it for a fairly decent price, and we're just going to rebuild it. I do believe that's going to be our best option.
I see. Well, that's all the questions we have for you today, Mr. Mike. If you want to say anything to the citizens of San Andreas,
Yeah. What'd you say? Sorry.
you got anything you want to say to San Andreas before we go?
Um, here's the big deal with this department right now is just getting people to join this department. This department is fun. It can get busy, but the people in this department, the people you surround yourself with in this department, are some of the best that we can offer in this state. So we are opening up our volunteer program to anyone in the state. So if you do wish to not join the department, but get a brief overview and see what we do on a day-to-day operation while also doing that, I do think that this is going to be your best option, as going through the volunteer program.